This is probably the most important video I've ever made. Why? Because in this video, I'm going to talk about some things that I rarely see people talk about on YouTube. In this video, I'm going to break down these 5 key elements that people neglect and will make your music better every single time. I want to start this video with a very simple musical example. I'm going to play the exact same piece of music, exact same notes, exact same instruments in 2 different ways. And I want you to see how huge of a difference these things make. And the second way, same exact notes, same exact instruments. There's a high chance that when I played this the second time, you were probably doing this with your hands. So let's break down what makes the first performance more expressive, more enjoyable, more musical, and what makes the second performance sound robotic, borderline annoying, and pretty much like a GM MIDI file playing, even though I used the exact same high-end libraries, the same instruments, and the same notes that Bach wrote. The first key element I want to talk about is dynamics, and it's one of the things that many producers and music makers neglect these days, especially when you haven't been trained to play an instrument. You don't need to have formal training to do what I'm about to show you, but dynamics are hugely important, and it's one of the things that even as mixing engineers and mastering engineers, we always talk about retaining the dynamics. But what about when you're producing, when you're composing, when you're creating a beat? Dynamics can really help you out. I'm going to play a very simple piece that pretty much everyone I know has tried to play on the piano when they're starting out. And this is a very popular Beethoven piece, Für Elise. Everybody knows that. Now let's remove the dynamics and let's play all the right notes. This, to me, says a very well-behaved student that learned the right notes but has zero expression. This is something that many people struggle with because especially if you cannot play an instrument, you're relying on adding the notes, the MIDI notes inside the key editor or your piano roll, and most of the times they're going to be in the same velocity. So even if you're using a high-end library, like here I'm using Ivory Free, if I play all the notes with the same velocity, it sounds like a fake recording. It sounds like it was programmed, right? Straight away. This is equally important when you're working with instruments that change dynamics while they have sustained notes. The piano cannot do this. So with the piano, if I play one note, that's it. This is my only chance to make this note sound softer or louder. Once I hit the key, it's over. But when you have instruments that can change their dynamics while they hold a note, like violins, string instruments, wind instruments, brass, synths, dynamics are super important. Right here I have the Swam violin section from Audio Modeling, the kind sponsors of this video, and I'm going to show you. Let's play the same Bach piece that I played at the beginning. So as you can see, I have my dynamics that evolve while I hold the note down. So this note doesn't sound anymore like this. but it sounds like this. And what I'm doing here is I'm using two controls, and I'm going to talk about this in a second. The second key point is maybe the most important of any point that I'm going to talk about today, and it's one of the things that most people forget about, or they don't even think about, and this is phrasing. Phrasing is the pillar of music, and the more conscious you are about phrasing, the better your music is going to be. One great way to understand phrasing, and this I have to give credit to all my incredible piano teachers when I started out when I was 5 years old, is thinking about every piece of music that you're going to play as a little story. And every little melody is a little phrase. So while I'm talking right now, you will notice I have my inflections in my voice. I don't speak like that, otherwise I would sound like
an AI robot.
But if I start talking in a normal way, and I have my inflections, and I have my pauses, and I have my breaths, you perceive me as a human being. You perceive this as human expression. The same thing happens with music. If you want to play this melody, dynamics is one thing, but you have to think about this melody as a little phrase every single time. So, see, I'm breathing. Try and sing it. You don't have to be a good singer. So the last note should be a little bit quieter than the top notes. And also we have repeated notes here. These are going to be a little bit clunky if we play them in the same dynamics and with the same kind of rhythm. Sounds okay, but what about if we do... See, I'm doing a little bit of a crescendo there, so I'm going higher in volume. Just resting here. Taking a breath. So now we're opening up. The melody soars up high. And see, the melody always leads you in the right way. Quieter and quieter. If you think about it this way, I guarantee you don't have to be a keyboard player, you don't have to be a guitar player, you don't have to be a violin player. You will be able to translate this into MIDI notes, or however you're playing. Your drums are going to be better, all your instruments are going to be better, and you're going to have a more personal voice. I'm going to do the same thing with the strings. I'm going to play the same Bach piece, and check out the phrasing now. See what I'm doing there? Getting a little bit of a breath. Violin players don't really need to take a breath, but every melody in our human brain, we conceive it as human voice. So these are like small phrases. If you analyze this, it's almost like a longing. It's almost like this gesture, like para, para, para. And every time I go higher, I go a little bit louder. I'm breathing every step of the way. I'm trying to make this as expressive as I can. And this works for every single instrument with no exception. If you're using synths, for example, you might use a filter. You might use your release on your synths. It's so important. The attack is also very important. See, I don't start like... I start like... What a difference, right? And this is one of the reasons why I've been using Swarm instruments for a long, long time, because you can actually do these things very easily. Or I can just hit hard with the velocity. But I'm going to talk a little bit about virtual instruments and how you can use techniques to make your parts sound more expressive later on. The third key element that I want to talk about is all about voicing and making sure that the voicing inside every piece of music you're playing is laid out in a way that you make the important stuff stand out and the not so important or supporting stuff a little bit quieter. This, to me, is a little bit like mixing while you're producing, if I want to put it in a nutshell. So I'm going to go back to the piano here and I'm going to play a very beautiful piece from Beethoven. This is from his Pathetique Sonata, and this is the second movement. And this will give you a very clear idea of what I mean. Funny fact, I think this ended up in a Kiss song, by the way, from the Destroyer album. Very interesting, right? So let's analyze this piece of music, and we have to give priorities to the voices. The bass plays this melody, so we need to make this expressive. Now, let's listen to what the top melody plays. There's a beautiful melody hidden right here. And now let's play what's going on in between. This in-between is just a pulse, and it also gives us the harmonic support here, so we can understand what kind of chords are right there. But the most important thing is this. Again, sing it. Again, we do this arc. And if you check the score, you will see that you have these long slurs, which means that this has to be played as a single phrase. Again, phrasing. Now, if I play this without thinking about my melodies and how I should mix those voices together, it's gonna sound like this. Even if I do dynamics, it's like a mess. It's just bulky. You don't really hear the melody. It doesn't sound great. So what I should do now, while I'm playing this or while I'm producing a piece of music, is I need to figure out which one of these voices is going to be the voice that I'm going to highlight. So I want to make sure that the supporting voices are a little bit quieter and the important element, the melody, needs to come out. So I'm giving priority to, and then I'm playing this supporting a little bit quieter. Exaggerate over there, but you get the point. The notes that you're going to highlight are hugely important because there might be a melody hidden in what you're playing right there. The fourth thing I want to talk about is learning about how instruments work. And again, you don't have to be a classically trained musician to do this. You can reach out to a friend that plays an instrument, talk to musicians, or even start learning about how instruments work, because this will allow you to create more realistic parts. One book that I totally suggest you check out is this one. This is The Study of Orchestration from Samuel Alder. It's a huge book, but it's so enjoyable and it gives you an in-depth idea of how the instruments work, especially orchestral instruments. Knowing how each instrument works is very important when you're arranging. For example, right here, I have the Swam trumpet instrument, and you will see that I can see exactly how this works. Actually, Swam instruments are great for understanding how an instrument works because they're not based on samples, they're based on physical modeling. So they've actually modeled the instrument, so you can see the physiology of the instrument just by looking at the interface. If I play staccato here, if you know how a trumpet works, for example, you will know about the growl that I'm controlling using aftertouch here. So, depending on how you play a trumpet, it might be suitable for, let's say, jazz, or it might be suitable for classical music, or it might be suitable for cinematic music, or it might be suitable for Balkan music. So, for example, if I wanted to play this trumpet with the Balkan style, I need to have lots of vibrato. And you can hear I have some special things right here that a trumpet can do, like the shakes. So what I'm doing here is I'm using CC controls, and this allows you to be very, very expressive with your instruments. Now I'm going to switch to another instrument. Let's talk about oboes, right? So right here I have the Swam oboe. Swam gives you the option to have vibrato and of course the expression with the dynamics. An experienced player will always introduce a bit of vibrato to their playing. It's very rare that you see oboes playing completely straight. You really have to notate it if you want an oboe player to not introduce vibrato to their playing. And if you listen to professional oboe players, you will know that they will introduce the vibrato gradually. Let's go to the exact opposite. Let's go to the clarinet. Now, the clarinet, when it comes to classical music, it's one of those instruments that they don't play vibrato. So if you start introducing too much vibrato on a clarinet, it might sound a little bit out of place. It might sound a little bit fake. But if you're working with a jazz context, then the clarinet might have lots of vibrato. So it's all about learning about those details and intricacies of every instrument. For example, clarinets, controlling the breath noise right here. I'm controlling the vibrato here and also the expression. I'm not going to introduce vibrato too much. Phrasing. And one of the things that you should be very careful with is the ending of the phrases. This is also something that gives it away, that a piece of music is programmed and it's fake. And now the final point, and this is more of a music production kind of tip, and it's layering. This is one of the things that I've talked about in many of my videos. It's a technique that I've been using for 20 years now, and it's a very popular technique, and there's a reason for this. And I'm going to give you a very, very simple example. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to layer instruments and libraries together. So for example, the Swam instruments give me a very expressive sound because I can play so what do you hear there? I have like my attacks, so I can have sharp attacks if I play harder with the velocity, but I can still have I can still do my arcs, I can still do my phrasing. Let me show you how I layer this. Right here I have a string library from Spitfire, Abbey Road 1. Let's listen to it. Now here's the big difference. If I want to have spiccato with this library, I should go for a different articulation. Okay? Legato. Spiccato. But once I play these notes, it's like a piano. It's over. I cannot keep going. So what I can do is I can hit record enable on both libraries and play both libraries at the same time. And now I'm getting this amazing expression from the Swam violin sections where I can do trills, everything I need. Playing fast, no problem. Now if I mute the Swam violin section and play the exact same piece just with the sample library, first of all, I have to adjust my playing because it always plays a little bit after I hit the key. And the legatos become a little bit blurry. This is common for any sampled library. But if I play both of them, so don't be afraid to layer multiple sounds together and get the best aspect from every single sound in order to make your music better. So there you go, my friends. This is a topic very dear to me. I wanted to get this out of my chest. I hope you found this video inspiring. I hope you learned something. I hope you make better music using these techniques. And if you already knew this, let me know in the comments down below. Give us more of your tips because music making is a beautiful thing and it makes me incredibly happy interacting with people that share the same passion. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.